All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. I'm John Johnson. This is my mother, Rhonda Johnson. We're going to do a book review. This is going to be the book review for Nomadland. This book is by, let me see, Jessica Bruder. My mother's got a head start on me for this one, so she was able to finish it already. I'm about halfway through. But go ahead and give me your what you got from the book so far. What are your overall thoughts and feelings on it?
So it was a slow starter for me. And initially I was like, a lot of repetition, but towards the end, the I couldn't find an overlying theme other than let me show how people live who decide to live in campers or alternative vehicles. Um, but as a whole, I think it was a stab at trying to say our capitalistic society affects more than what is typically portrayed in the media. Here are some examples of it.
Keep going. I'm gonna take notes while you're talking
Okay, so I have a question for you. A good part of the book talked about, it gave you a glimpse of how the people got there, but not really details about how they got there. I would have liked to see more details as far as how they got there. I also think that in order for someone to say, hey, I'm going to leave everything and I'm going to live in a vehicle, truly live in the vehicle 24/7 and travel the United States and work menial jobs, it says a lot. So either that person is really, really desperate or there's some type of mental health issue involved. I just can't imagine leaving everything and everyone you love and just living that type of life. What are your thoughts on
about. Yeah, you had a few different points. Uh, the mental health aspect part is definitely real. One big thing I saw was these people solved the rent game. The whole reason
that?
why
Yeah, yeah,
I'm in my current profession is because I'm trying to help solve like people just throwing away hundreds of $1,000s a month to rent. There's some smart people, I would say top 1%, who are like, I can rent and then invest my 6 figures plus salary somewhere else. And they play that game. But for 99% of people, that game is not going to work for them. And the rent game is, in my opinion, also doesn't work as well. So I go at it from the home buying side. But these people pretty much solve the, all right, can't buy a home, don't want to rent. They found another alternative.
yeah. You know what? If you look at that, that was one of the key focus areas of the book is saying our capitalistic society has us running on this rat wheel. And if we remove that one aspect, it takes a lot of stress out of the game, so to speak. Um, and it's also interesting that someone would rather face bad weather, really hard labor. And we're going to talk a little bit about that Amazon thing because that one I really want to drill down on. Um, all kind of animals. They mentioned rattlesnakes. Having to urinate or and defecate in a pail. Um, really living in a very small space that most people don't even want to drive in for a long period of time. They rather fly, but they're choosing to live there. But that gave them more security than having to worry about where their next meal was coming from, where their next rental payment was coming from. And that's kind of scary, to think that someone would rather face that than actually, get out there and hustle every day. And I guess a lot of them were people who were like, in their 60s. So maybe you get to a point in life where you're like, enough, you know. I've tried this for all these years. It's failing me. I can't live on this Social Security. This is how I live. Now, one of the interesting things that came up, I don't know if you got to this juncture, was because I was thinking it the whole time I'm reading it, okay, I know people of color not out there with melanin in their skin. You're not finding them out there. And so she did a little bit of exploration into some of the reasons why I would have liked to see her do more of a deep dive on that. Like she really went, into detail on some of these other things that it left some unanswered questions too. But this, I really think she should have done more of a deep dive on.
I don't think she probably had the expertise to probably do a deep dive on that, because the people that choose that lifestyle choose that because they already had that culture in them. Many of those people were already slightly hipster, slightly earthy, to where, just like me, I didn't know about this culture. But now that I've learned about this culture, now I know that it's an option. I think many of these people didn't even know that that type of thing was an option. And then once they actually,
we've seen it, but we didn't know what was surrounding it, right? You've seen,
I didn't,
whether it's
that's
at a
not,
rest stop or,
that's not something that I've never gone to my phone and gone to Google to research.
but I'm talking about in real life, whether you're driving, you pull into a rest stop. Sometimes you've seen these types of, it's different than a regular person driving a camper, going across the
And by the way, let me go ahead and explain. When it comes to these people that we're talking about, these are people that decide to stop renting. They sometimes live with family members, but they decided, I don't want to be a burden towards my family. So they get some sort of trailer, and they pretty much become nomads and do tons of seasonal work. They'll go, and this is mainly out in West where she was doing a lot of her research. So they'll be in Nevada, they'll be in Washington. They'll go to the seasonal jobs. Many of them are like summertime camp jobs where you're cleaning up different campsites. And they just have these certain seasonal works that throughout the year, they do these 3 or 4 different jobs. They get paid minimum wage to do basic things. They live on campsites either for free or for very cheap. And the main thing is they don't have to worry about the very, very big expenses. The big expenses are no more to them. So they can just enjoy their earthy lifestyle.
So, my first real exposure to homelessness, as I would call it, because we see a homeless person around here. But when I went to Santa Barbara, the the difference is really, and there's Levi wanting to join the conversation.
Of course, they can read some books. They can get to
Right.
that point. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely
He's
not.
gonna break in.
Definitely
He's
not.
gonna get out
Definitely
here.
not. Go ahead.
Okay, so anyway,
Grandmas, go ahead.
what really blew my mind was it was one evening I was just taking a walk because whenever I visit somewhere, I like to see what the locals do. I like to eat what the locals eat. And I like to get to know the community. So I was taking a walk away from the hotel and just walking around. And I stumbled upon a park full of homeless people. And it was like vans, little campers. But what I noticed was the majority of the people were around in their 60s. A lot of them appeared to be veterans. And you could tell with some of the people there were some mental health issues going on. But what blew my mind was when you look up into the hills, you see these mansions, and then the ocean is right across the street there. And then you're in this park full of homeless people. And I was like, my God. And so, what someone who was local told me was that if they don't go to this location, is designated for them to go to, and if they don't go there, they could be arrested. And I thought that was something interesting too, because one of the fears she said, and one of the things they have to watch out for is they're going to break laws, because a lot of areas have laws against just parking and camping places. So they're going to break laws, and they have to become crafty at how they do it. So when you talk about that, that's another reason why you're not going to find a lot of people in color in those situations. But also too, you know, people of color have been through the woods, run through the woods. That history is there, embedded in the DNA, and they're not in favor of staying out in the woods. Family is what they draw to. So it's kind of a different approach, a different thought process. It opened my eyes to a lot. It takes an amount of bravery to do that.
The initial step is normally comes from some sort of tragedy, from what I'm hearing, or at least what I read in the book, from my portion so far. Some sort of tragedy, breakdown. When they first get it, it's not like the greatest thing of all time. But once they get into the culture, it's a cultural thing.
They become family, is what they call it,
It's
right?
it's if you like tree hugging, earthy, all whatever that whole type of culture, then most people who are doing these certain gigs, these nomad lives, these traveling to these seasonal jobs, living in these certain campsites, they have a similar culture to each other. And so when they talk about things and discuss things, it's people that it's people that speak the same language.
Did they always have it, or did they gravitate to it?
I think these are people that always had it.
So it deep within them, you're feeling that they always had some type of drawing to that earthy type
I
of.
would guarantee you 90% of the people that are in this book and that we're discussing it in this culture were never materialistic type of people. They were not walking around with the Louis bags. They were not walking around with the nicest things. They always had in the back in their head this type of situation, these types of things. And they finally found a culture that supports it. And it's normally like not grinding to find that culture. They're finding, at least in this book with the nomads and whatnot, they find this out of necessity. Lost my job, just got divorced,
Yeah.
no income, like they're in a very bad place to where
They can't get another job. That's the thing I think stuck out with me. They're saying, hey, we're in our 50s and our 60s. We're putting in applications, but we cannot get a job. So that is a good segue into the whole Amazon thing, because a lot of the focus was on how Amazon has these camper parks and they let people come in and work seasonally, but they work all these long hours, they get injuries, and how the company protects the company. And, it's interesting because one aspect of it is they are hiring you when no one else is. So you are able to get some income. So they are hiring you. And so the question was, one of the questions she posed was, well, why would they hire people in this age group knowing that someone younger would be a better fit? And so the people in the age group tell each other, the nomads tell each other, oh, it's because they know we're loyal, they know we'll show up, they know we work hard, type of thing. And so in some ways, the Amazon was vilified, but the nut and bolts of it is it did provide an income for them. Amazon hired them when no one else would.
there are tons of jobs out there.
So
There's
what do you
always
think?
tons of jobs out there. This is not a job situation.
So you're saying that's an excuse that was used?
There's tons of jobs out there. If you can get into an unfortunate cycle to where if you start doing seasonal work and then that's all you got in your resume is seasonal work, then if you want to make okay income besides minimum wage, then you have to, like for any corporation, et cetera, you have to go back to that, start at the bottom, working X amount of hours, like having these managers that are always looking over top of you, but then that goes against the culture that they have. And a lot of these jobs.
But what's interesting is that happens at Amazon. I don't think that's the case. I think what's happened is, okay, back when, I think it's a cultural shift. It really is, because a lot of them are not tech savvy. And so how you got a job back when they were in their late teens, early 20s, 30s is different than how you get a job today. And they try a few times and then it's like, okay, I got to provide for myself. This isn't working. You know what I'm saying? I really don't think it's a matter of they're not trying or unwilling to start at the bottom, because at Amazon, they're not even a part of the normal Amazon crew. So even then, there's a separation.
I repeat myself. It's a culture thing. If you're a part of Nomad Life and you're inside of a group and you have this person, that person, that person, that person, and someone else wants to join the crew, or wants to join like that type of lifestyle, they say, yeah, if you want to work, then during the summer times, we go here. That's where we normally work during the summer times. And during the winter times, we all normally get a job at Amazon. They normally have tons of jobs there to do this. And then during this season, we go here. That's a part of the culture.
But before they got to that culture, some of them were CEOs. Some of them, had really regular jobs, but then they lost that
They
job during
they
they talk about the 2008 2010 issue when a lot of layoffs occurred.
they learn the culture through websites and through forums. So you go on there and you're getting the same people at the top. They'll ask that person, hey, I'm new into the culture. How do you do this? And they say, oh, this is how you survive in this type of culture. We normally do X, Y, and Z. You normally have these certain spots. You have the Walmart app where you can be able to, it's not the actual Walmart app, but it's the app where you can be able to find Walmart locations that accept nomads. Like the culture is broken down for them. People don't go into it and try to figure it out on their own. I'm sure there's some people out there that do that, but a majority of people are coming into it and they go online and research real quick and they find the same 2 or 3 websites that give them the same advice on how to be able to
So
live life.
your point is you have to be open to it to even consider it.
Open to the culture.
Yeah, to even consider that type of lifestyle. So you're saying it's not a matter of economics, capitalism, age, none of that really plays into it. It's a matter of if you already have that desire to live more of a nomad life or live off the grid, so to speak.
The underlying culture is in the back of these people's heads, I would assume. And then when those economic times and other hardships happen, those become tipping points to where they finally have to aggressively find the culture that works for them, or they stumble upon that culture. Maybe they did stumble upon it, but they did have an okay job, and maybe like the one guy had wife, kids, everything else. So you were trapped in a bubble to where he didn't feel like he could be able to join the culture that he wanted to join.
I mean, sometimes I say I want to be, I say it often, I want to be off the grid. But off the grid for me means, just to have some solitude, some peace, some quiet, not really be dependent upon the electrical, the whatever, create it. But there's some things in life I can't see myself giving up.
So I understand exactly where you're coming from. And I will state this. She stated in the book, after the Great Depression, the trailer game, the home on wheels game became very, very big because paying mortgages, renting, etc., was very, very expensive for people. When you can just buy a
We're
car.
almost there now.
This is an alternative, and I'm in this space. I'm constantly researching. I'm constantly looking around. This did not appear to me as an option.
For
Where
you.
no, like
But for some
I'm not
people, it
always
may
thinking
be
of,
an option.
I'm not thinking about myself. I'm good. I'm always trying to think about how to better take care of other people. I'm only
Right.
in this space because I'm trying to figure out
How to
how to
take care
better
of
take care of other
others.
people. And now after reading this book, this is another option. So the past couple of days, I've been researching online trailers, how much they cost, tiny homes, how can you be able to do it? I mean, one of my dreams could
Okay.
be to put a couple tiny homes in my backyard
Let's
and be
talk
able to
about.
have that for people.
Yeah, you can buy do that. But
Yeah,
tiny homes are not inexpensive. That's the thing. Tiny homes can add up to be the price of a regular home. Because you got, and I did a little research on this
that's a
because
home.
I had a customer ask me, a tiny home. Oh,
I'm saying
but
a
you're gonna
trailer, like a tiny home is still trying to give you a couple things. If you got a trailer, and I'm not even talking about a trailer that's moving, like not a vehicle with a trailer.
you got a little camper.
I'm literally talking about you got a space for a kitchen, a bathroom. That's all you need. And then you got a living space where you just put a bed or whatever else in. And from my research, I got to do more research on this. I'm not the crazy shopper, so I got to keep
You gotta
on.
talk to your daddy and uncle about that. They already in that game.
Yeah, but they're in. Yeah, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. There's a balance to
They
it.
got my 6 of them.
I like when I give Dana, if I can be able to give Dana the vision, properly give her the vision, she'll know how to, when it comes to purchasing things, do it right. I'm not trying to
The only way
rebuild.
you gonna sell Dana is glam. You gotta have a little glamour in that
I've been with her for a long period of time. Trust me, I know how to.
Okay.
And so I'll definitely chat with those people, the uncle and the pops. I'll definitely chat with those people to be able to, you know, see how they do it, because they're finding the trailers on the side of the road and then building them up.
But I mean, this is what they're talking about. This is what they're doing. Like, they aren't going out buying $100,000 campers. I mean, they are really getting them for dirt cheap. And I think what's interesting is in the end, Linda, who is kind of the main character, finds some land for $2,500. And she always wanted to do like the spaceship type house, is what I call it. Um, it doesn't say that she gets there, but it actually ends with her finding that land. So yeah, it's a spoiler alert, but this it's not like a suspense book where like it leaves you hanging. It's like, so Linda finds some land and she actually owns a piece of the land to end with. So I think it's interesting because she found a way to still own that piece of land. She found a property. It was risky to me because she found it on Craigslist of all place. And the guy told her she could pay like $250. I think it was over a period of time until she paid off the $2,500. So
Good for her. Good for her. I like the lifestyle, and to me, I wish it could be combined better to where you're doing this and you're not paying. You don't have hardly any expenses. You combine that with one or two part-time jobs, so they're making more than these seasonal works. You're able to actually save up very quickly. So if you're able to make, $25,000, $30,000 in the course of a year, you have hardly no expenses. You're able to save $20,000 a year. You can easily jump yourself back onto your feet. But
so
that's
your
not
thing
what people
is,
do.
how can you rebuild so you actually still stay a part of this rat race? In other words, I really like, the one thing I do like is a sense of community. And I think we've lost a lot of that. And that may be what they're gravitating to
It's always
because
community. It's
they
always
take
culture.
care of each other.
It's always community. It's always culture. But as you read the book, these people are always, not always, but many of them are still going online like, hey, I'm short for cash. Can anyone help out? Going to their family, hey, I'm short for XYZ. Can you help out? So, like, they've solved the expense problem, but the income problem is not fully solved. And that can be solved with just slightly more income than seasonal work.
Yeah, and they become creative when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to dentistry, which to me is heartbreaking to know that we're in, supposedly, one of the most wealthiest societies in the world, and you have a group of people who can't get basic necessities taken care of. Like a lot of them lose teeth because they can't afford to have dental work done. So the easier thing is just pull it out. And even in my days working for, Medicaid programs, it's like they'll pay for adults to get their teeth pulled out, but not, you know, cared for properly.
Yeah, so there's different ways to do it. There's different ways to be outside the box, but to be able to combo that, like I said, like there's some part-time jobs where if you stay there for a year or two, they'll give you benefits. Like there's some more ways to be able to make that work out. But once again, it's a cultural thing. People would much rather be a part of the culture, be able to talk about the culture. They all have the same similar jobs. And when they get together, they can all talk about those same similar jobs. And you feel like you're a part of something rather than, oh, I'm kind of a part of the culture. Like I like the nomad life, but
So I can agree with that once you get to it, because once you're in any environment, you can acclimate yourself to it and make it home. You don't have a choice. You're there. You might as well make the best of it. My biggest challenge is what it took to get there. And I really think there has to be some level of I gave up on this whole American dream in order for me to even consider living that type of lifestyle, because it is so unorthodox based upon what we know. And to me, it's a tragedy and a travesty that in this day, they cannot get basic things taken care of, health care, dental work. I mean,
you keep saying they can't, and I'm telling you, they
but you're
can.
coming from the perspective of a young person. But when you get to my age and you really know that, hey, I still have skills, I'm healthy, but people look at your resume and they're like, mm, it happens. I think there is a certain level of age discrimination that happens, whether or not it's consciously or unconsciously.
Plenty of jobs out there. If you want to be a part of this culture that's in the book, you have to keep traveling. If instead you do the trailer game, but you have a permanent spot and location, that's a different story. And to me,
But
that's going to be a lot more manageable.
okay, but then you have ordinances, city and local municipalities who do not allow you to just quote camp here. And that's part of the challenge too.
I'm sure there's a way. So I'm still researching. I'm sure there's a way. And in all regards, if you have friends or family, I'm sure you can be able to ask if you can camp your trailer and be able to pay them a rent for your trailer being there.
And with the HOA, so they got to have somewhere where they don't have an HOA. Some friends and family, people seem to care more about themselves instead. But you know what? We may agree to disagree on this topic, but I do applaud the fact that you're exploring it because it is a good alternative now. We live in Florida, so I ain't about that life with, hurricanes and tornadoes and winds, gusts just coming out the blue. But for some people, it is a good answer.
Many friends and family in the culture, but if you have friends and family that are out of the culture that will allow you to be able to camp and park your trailer, I'm sure there's a way to do it. But if you're doing that, now you're still going to be around types of people you probably don't fully want to be around. You'll much rather be around these people that have that certain understanding. One of the guys I work with, his parents, they live in a park and they have a RV, so it's a little bit nicer than a trailer, and they can be able to drive with that RV to different places if they want to, but they have a permanent place, and now you're getting that same thing because those people that live in that park have a similar culture towards them. So there's ways to make it a little bit better, a little bit nicer. The people she interviewed in this book, they were more on the part-time spectrum, and it was a lot of Linda and her story and her type of thing. So yeah. I think it's better ways to do it. I'm gonna research some more on it to better get it more figured out.
I had clients once. They actually sold their home, but there could be, if you own a home, the possibility, okay, you rent that home out, you get your place like this, and you're gonna stay there for a year, you're able to save up and then, maybe now reacclimate yourself into. So there may be some, workarounds or options because what my clients did was they sold their home, they traveled in a mobile home around the United States for a year, which, a lot of us said we want to do. And then I think they might have done 2 years. And then they were able to save up. And then boom, they purchased another, retirement home. So they did that in between. Okay, our kids are now grown. We don't need this house anymore. Let's go enjoy a little bit of America. Let's travel around. And now, okay, we've done that. Let's settle down type of thing. And they were able to save up and, getting home. I agree. There are options. There are options.
There's options. But if you go online and you try to get into the culture, that's what you're going to be in flux with, is this, most likely, in my opinion. But I'm going to keep doing some more research because I like this as a different alternative for people. I would love to be able to own a plot of land and put a ton of trailers, tiny homes, things that cost $10K or less on there. And people be able to have an option that's a lot better and sustainable than spending $1,000, $1,500 on rent every single month.
Well, I believe you can do it.
Any last comments?
It was a slow read for me because typically I go through the books, but it was kind of slow because it seemed kind of repetitive. And towards the end, it picked up and it brought things together, which I thought early on it maybe should have. There are some areas I wish you would have done a deeper dive into the psychology behind how you get there, why there are not diverse groups there. I think that would have made the book a better read altogether and a little bit meatier for me and a little bit more interesting. If we had not committed to this conversation, it probably would have been one of those books I would have dropped after the first chapter.
And that's why we do this, so we can finish the books, get the full perspective on them.
I'm done with this joker.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of too many writers when it comes to how they write. Whereas this person and that person, they go back to this person, go back to that person. I'm very much computer. I want this story complete, that story complete, this story complete. Here's an overall conclusion. But I can't get everything that I want when it comes to books. But she did hit a subject that it was not on my radar. And I think it's going to influence me a lot on how I can be able to help assist people in this financial game.
And to me, it's amazing because it kind of ties into this whole concept we've been looking at and exploring, which I didn't know when, we chose the book. It's just, it sounds interesting. Let's check it out. What's different about nomads, type of thing. But now that I finished it, it does bring a different perspective. It does give me different insight. And I just think whether or not you believe in social programs, or not, there is a need when you have certain groups of the population. They do need a little bit of assistance. They're not helping, asking you to take care of everything for them. But I just don't think in this rich culture we should have people who can't get dental and health care.
You got it. You love the social program side. I love the.
Don't put me in a box. Don't put me in a box, brother.
Sure. And I like, how do I educate people to take care of themselves without the situation? But hey, that's another subject. That's another subject. Appreciate you.
Love you, boy.
Thank you. You get a kiss on the forehead. You have a great day.